When I first set up my coaching business, I tried so hard, but I nearly lost my soul. Up all night tweaking my website, awake all night rehearsing my perfect networking pitch. It was driving me nuts until I spotted this key mistake. I was obsessed with following advice, whether it was from the big gurus or just people at an event or some kind of peer group that I joined or whatever it was on LinkedIn. Yes, that's what I should do. That's what I should do. And I completely forgot that I was an individual. And what I had to bring to the table was of value. And it didn't need to be the same as everybody else. And let's start with that business of the networking pitch, shall we? Because boy, oh boy, is there a lot of advice out there about that. And I fell for it. But I'll tell you how I got out of that trap. Look, I'm not saying that all those gurus and experts are wrong. The problem was that they might have been wrong for me. Start with telling people who I help, tell them what problem I solve. How am I different? Oh, and while I'm at it, get a really good little personal anecdote in there to hook them. Look, Simon Sinek might have been perfectly right about starting with why. Donald Miller definitely has a point about the power of storytelling, but you can't cram all that in. And if you try to, following steps 1, 2, 3, 4, the perfect pitch, all those YouTube videos, all those self-help books, and I had a lot, you are not going to stand out. You will also walk away feeling miserable because it's like you've betrayed your very soul. I'm going to read some tiny little paragraphs from a chapter in my book, which begins with the case of template torture. This was a new business owner, perfectly good at what she did, but she was going to these networking events and coming away feeling miserable because guess what? She was trying to do the perfect pitch formula. Once this had been resolved, because she went to see Investigator Lewis and had some recommendations, she suddenly found a whole new joy in the world of networking events. Bing! So I'm going to read those tiny little paragraphs out. They're a little bit funny, but not that exaggerated. And guess what? Based on experience. But before that, I just want to put this absolute pause on you going crazy following all the experts. And this is how to do it. And this is ironic because I'm offering you a tip. Ask yourself this: is this thing that I'm creating, in this case, the perfect networking pitch, being fueled by the fibs that hold us back? Fears, illusions, baggage. Yes. Clever, isn't it? I've come up with this thing, the fibs that hold us back. I won't go too much into baggage when it comes to the networking pitch thing, but definitely we've got fear and we've got illusion playing their part and holding us back. And I'll come to that in a minute. What do I mean by that? But first, as promised, let me just pick out these little paragraphs from my book, The Mystery of the Squash Self: How to Stop Self-Sabotaging and Make Your Business Thrive. As I drove to the hotel, I rehearsed my pitch, determined to cover all the perfect pitch tips I had heard. It's not about you. Start with why. Lead with the benefits. Be authentic. Tell a story. And don't go over 60 seconds. I was last. I listened to the others and tried to pick up some more ideas. I wasn't that engaged by any of them, but they did sound professional and slick. Then I did mine. I messed up. Nothing came out coherently. I mumbled and then saw the table host looking at the time. I just tailed off. I didn't even suggest a meeting or next step, or, well, I was useless. As I drove away from the venue with the taste of bad coffee still permeating my mouth, I felt useless. Actually, I felt cross. I told myself I didn't want to be slick or professional. It wasn't who I was. What was the matter with everyone? All hiding behind masks and pretending their business was doing really well and would go global any minute now. I decided that I would just give up on networking events, full stop. The full stop was said with feeling. It also seemed to mark the end of her story. A cautionary tale. Needless to say, this all gets sorted by Investigator Lewis, along with Professor P, and there are some great tips in my book, but I'll share those as we go along in future videos. For now, back to this whole business of trying too hard. So when I realized that what would actually make me memorable, what would actually have people interested, was nothing to do with following these precise formulas. Yes, take some of this advice on. It is important not to just blabber on. Of course, I didn't just want to give my life story. And of course, I needed to let people know how I could be of some use and give them some way of following up. But what I needed most was for them to understand who I was, especially in this case, as I was a coach, a communication coach. No pressure. So I started to let go of these awful constricting reins that I'd put all over me and use my personality. And it doesn't mean that you've got to be a big personality. You can be a very quiet person. It just means being, I know it's corny, but being you, dropping that mask a bit. And in my case, that meant using a little bit of humor because that's sort of me. But also just remembering things like this is a conversation. This isn't really a formula, a strategy. I'm not a robot. So somewhere in here, I need to give the conversational vibe. I need to do what I do well, which is ask questions, be curious and listen. How do I do that in a pitch? Because it's all about being on broadcast. No, I learned that listening to everybody as I was having the coffee beforehand, as I was listening to their pitches, however slick they were, I was finding little connections and I actually led with those. So people began to think it was about them, not me, which actually is the way to grab people. So you get the drift. Sit down and think, what are the fibs that are holding me back? I said I'd come back to that. And in this case, when it comes to creating and delivering this pitch at a networking event, I think this is the fear. If I don't sound, ironically, expert enough, no one will take me seriously. That's the fear I had. The illusion, there is one right way to pitch. And I just need to crack the code, which is why I'll stay up all night and get obsessed and completely forget who I am in the process and spend thousands of pounds on self-help books and listen to every podcast. No, there isn't one way to crack the code. That's an illusion. I will be digging into all these fibs more in future episodes. I actually created an entire TEDx talk around a story of networking, a bad story and then a good story. So I'm going to share some extracts from that in the next video. And it's a bit about finding your tribe, as well as the fear of being judged as a show-off, which is one of my things, as you probably know by now. As always, anything you want me to explore on this kind of topic of self-belief unsquashed, please put in the comments below. I would be delighted to try and do a video, short or long, on that topic. It's about you. It's not about me. Oh, I think I might have made that a bit too corny. As always, stay curious and unsquashed. Till the next time. Obviously, I mentioned my book. So if you want to know more about that, then head to my website, trishalewis.com, go to the resources page, and you'll find quite a lot about this unsquashing malarkey, including a few little quizzes to try and some more videos and links to the book. And also, yeah, I almost forgot to mention my power hours, my coaching, which might be of some use to you. Not very good at promotion, am I? No. We'll get into that in a future video, I think. Yes.